Hi, Kingsley here. And today we're going to talk about how to have a more satisfying marriage. Now, it may go in a direction that you may not may typically have here when someone talks about how to have a more satisfying marriage, because a person can give you a list of things that they will say, this is how to have a more satisfying marriage. And you may say, I've tried them. It's not for a lack of trying. I've done the part, I've done the things I've listened to. I've read the books. I've listened to the podcast. I've watched the videos. And yet my marriage is not more satisfying. I'm not having a happier marriage. And so the question becomes, what could be missing? What might be the secret sauce for why your marriage is not as satisfying as it can be? Now, I know every marriage has a different idea or definition of what that might look like, right? But I can tell you, for someone like for me, I've been married for almost 4 decades. Now that's 38 years, so 2 years shy of 40 years. Now it feels like, man, like it's not, it doesn't feel what it should when I listen to the number. I don't know what 4 decades should feel like, but I can tell you, I don't feel like I've been married for this long time, even though it has been. It is something I celebrate. It's something to be proud of, and I'm sure that you may be also at this stage of your own marriage. And my wife and myself, our parents had very, very long marriages. Now, this is no guarantee that your marriage, because your parents did have a long marriage, may be a very long one as well. The question becomes, though, you can have a long marriage, but is it satisfying? Is it satisfying? This is very important, because so many people are just put up. They're in a marriage because they feel like they need to be in a marriage for the children's sake. That's not a bad idea, not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Some feel that they ought to be in this marriage because they've invested so much time and energy, and they feel like, well, I don't want to at this point leave my marriage. That's a very good thing as well. However, it's the quality of the marriage, because I find that it's not satisfying. It's not satisfying. Now, what's a satisfying marriage? I believe a satisfying marriage is one where you feel you don't feel anxious about it. You feel very secure in it. It's a marriage where you enjoy your spouse. It's a marriage where you find that you and your husband is having a good time. It's a marriage where you feel like you can have conversation and speak to your spouse as a friend, and you don't feel like you're having this bickering and fighting and conflict every single time when you wake up to the time you go to bed. That is not a satisfying marriage. The satisfying marriage is when you can wake up and you look into your spouse's eyes, you smile, you have a conversation, maybe coffee, something of that kind. You may, if you work outside the home, you leave and you look forward. You look forward to coming home. It's not like where you think, oh man, I gotta go home. That's not a satisfying marriage when you feel that way. It's one where you can't wait for the time to come home, and you're not going to hesitate. You're not going to veer off, and because you want to be home with your spouse. That's a satisfying marriage. I can tell you that, I do enjoy my marriage. I don't, thank God, with God's help, I truly look forward to, I work from home currently, but there was a time I went outside, and my wife does as well, but coming home is a place of respite, a place to get away from the hustle and the bustle and just the viciousness that can be experienced outside. Home become a place of refuge. That's what satisfying marriages are about. So the question then is how? How do you have a satisfying marriage? You may say, I've tried everything, but we know that that's not totally accurate, because I believe that there's always something that we may not know yet. We may not have heard, like in this episode, in this video you're watching, you're listening by the podcast. You would agree that You've tried everything that you know. But the question is there something that you don't know? That if you knew and tried, it might make a difference. And I believe that the angle from which I want to share this as you're listening today is this, that I think that the key, the secret is for you as a wife to become what I call an extraordinary wife. Now, immediately you might say, oh, okay, so you're putting that burden on me. You're saying I'm not having a satisfied marriage because I'm not this extraordinary wife. Well, I could see if that's the way you're feeling and thinking, and I could understand that because it could imply and seemingly imply that that's what I'm saying. Well, I may not be saying it that way, but I want to say it this way. I believe that for the sake of um, a satisfying marriage, you as a wife has your finger on the pulse of the relationship. Would you agree on that? Would you at least agree on that? We as husband, we sometimes are oblivious to what's going on. We don't know what you do know and what you see. You have a discernment. It's almost like you have a sixth sense as well, where you can pick up on things so quickly. You're intuitive. I believe God designed you that way. And that's why he called you to be a help meet for your husband in the book of Genesis. Why? Because he knows the way he created you is that you can have your finger on the pulse and you come alongside your husband and help him see things, hear things he may not be seeing or hearing. So I believe that you are keener, right? You have a more that you would say, that superpower, right? That superpower where your husband don't. And again, I'm speaking as a husband myself, that I may be missing some things, but I believe that you're closer to the pulse. Your ears are closer to the ground when it comes to relationship. You're more relationship oriented than we are. Doesn't mean that we're not a person who's into our relationships, but you're just more relationship oriented. So you're keen, you have a keener sense of what's going on. So imagine then, with that in mind, if you who are intuitive that way and you are leaning in to become an extraordinary wife, then the chance is your relationship can be more satisfying. Here's what I know. Because when you find yourself being happy, right? Number one, you're responsible for your own happiness as it is your husband, right? We're responsible for our own happiness. In the relationship, the other person comes alongside and adds to our happiness, right? So we should not look to our spouse to find our happiness. We need to find that in ourselves. But then our spouse comes along and he or she creates a happier state of being because he or she adds to what's already there. And that's where I find sometimes the problems in so many marriages is that the one partner is looking to the other just for their own happiness. It's not a good recipe because they can't provide that, you'll never be happy, right? That's how it's been presented. So therefore, I believe that you basically, as a wife, you're keener. You have a sense of what's going on. Therefore, I believe that when God's called you to be your husband helpmeet, to come alongside him and assist him, I believe that because you are able to set the tone. If you've heard this before, and I don't necessarily agree with this per se, I get the idea, the gist behind it, but you've heard this, right? A happy wife, happy life, right? No, I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I understand why that is being stated that way, because I believe that but let me say it this way. One of the things I've found about husbands, we want our wives to be happy. Almost every husband I've encountered, interacted with, they'll say, man, when my wife is happy, it makes me feel happy. Why? Because your husband feels as if he's contributing to what makes you happy. And that's one of the things that God's wired him with, as a provider and protector. He want to provide the environment as much as possible. But most times it's a reciprocity at work, because he may not be the one who initiated. He doesn't even know sometimes what it takes for that to be true. However, if you set the tone, if you begin to lay the groundwork for us, we can come alongside easier and be a partner in that respect. So that's what I believe, that you can, the whole happy wife, happy life idea. I get it, right? I believe also that because your husband wants you to be happy, and he enjoys, actually for me, when my wife is, enjoying what she is doing and having she loves to shop, she loves to get window shop most times. And as I just said to her recently, I said, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. You can take 3 hours and go to the store or to the mall and walk around and sometimes come away with nothing, and it's no big deal. I'm thinking, I would think it's a waste of time. I would think, like, I just can't. She laughed because she said, you're right. And that's why she said most times when she's going out to do one of her shopping things, she doesn't invite me. She've come to the place right now. We go out ever so often, but for the most part, she said, no, you stay home. Why? Because I am, I would be a fun killer, right? Or a shopping killer, because I'll be sitting there, I'll be looking a certain way. She can read my body language. She feels pressure. She feels like, you want to go home. You're not liking it. And she's right. Because I'm just not that guy, not that person. Most husbands are that way as well. But, but when she does that, when she finds things that makes her happy and she's into that, it makes me happy. I truly enjoy that. And however I can help to make that a reality, that is what feeds my soul. It feeds my soul. And so when that happens, then the relationship feels happier and lighter. We get along, we have interaction, we will laugh and talk, because why? She's filling her soul with what she needs. I am doing something differently, but we can come together, right? And that's where I talk about the independent, interdependent. Independent path where she's doing her thing, I'm doing my thing, but we come interdependent and we come together and experience our relationship. So I believe why I say you becoming an extraordinary wife is the place to start. And here's what I find. I love the quote. The late Zig Ziglar would say it this way. He says, you must become, or you have to be before you can do. And you have to do before you can have. So he says most people want to have, but they have not yet become. And so I believe if you become that extraordinary wife, then you can have an extraordinary marriage or a more satisfying marriage. So when I say it sounds like I'm putting the burden on you, no, I'm calling you to what I believe you're being wired to do best. I believe that you, of the two of in the relationship of my wife and I, she's wired. And she's better at that. She's more intuitive. She's more relationship oriented. She has her finger on the pulse of the relationship. She is the one that can feed that so much. And then I come alongside and join in, and we have a more satisfying marriage, right? So here's the thing then, the idea of what then is an extraordinary wife? I believe an extraordinary wife has a lot, it's a long list, and I will, over time kind of share more and more about those. But an extraordinary wife is someone who is supportive, loving, has humor, a sense of humor, spontaneous, and she's just herself. She's herself. She finds that she doesn't have to become somebody else or something else, right? She's someone who's not afraid to take, as I mentioned before, the lead in the marriage. I give a quick example. My wife and I, we travel every so often. We try to do a vacation. As of this podcast episode, we recently went on a trip to Colombia. First time going there, to Ecuador. And one of the things I would say, people ask me, how was the trip? I said, man, it was hot. it really was. It really was very, very hot. But again, and then they said, okay, now how was the trip? I said, it was fun. We had a great time. It's predominantly Spanish speaking. We don't speak Spanish as our primary language. We know a few words. We can get around and we can pick up a few words here and there. She knows a little bit more than I do, and I have some background. So we kind of make the best of it. And then we have Google Translate. That helps us greatly as well. So, but she's the one who plans. I would find it if it was left to me, even though I love to travel, I love to get away, but if it's left to me, I just don't have the time. I just don't make the time. I make the time for everything else because has a little bit more flexibility than I do. And she doesn't mind it. She does not mind planning. She'll, of course, consult with me. We can talk about it and she can go ahead and she consult with me. But she's a primary planner. She leads in those areas, right? Because she, again, is not that I'm not a part of the planning, but she has more flexibility and she doesn't mind. That's the thing I like about how our relationship is. We kind of allow each other's strength to play out. And I believe an extraordinary wife does that. And she's also someone who's looking for ways to make her husband happy. And he said, well, isn't the husband doing the very same thing or should do that? Well, he does. But as I said before, it's most times he cannot wait for her to lead. And he comes alongside and he joins in. And the question is, does it matter who? Does it matter who sets a tone? Does it matter who leads? Or does it matter that you do have a satisfying marriage? That's where I think some people go wrong. They're looking for, it's about, well, I don't, because you're not. No, it doesn't matter who does. The question is what comes as a result of that. So she's always she looks for ways to make her husband happy, right? So I believe that you can become extraordinary by being supportive of your husband's goals and dreams. But that's the thing I believe the Bible, when God said he created you, when he created you as a wife, he said for you to be a helpmate. Your primary role that God has created you with is to be a helpmate for your husband. Helpmeet means come alongside and support his dreams, support his goals. Why? Because when you do that, because he's a primary, he's supposed to be the primary breadwinner. I know we could get off in the tangent and people, you might want to take me on task on that. And I know in our culture, in our time we're living in, we had this independent woman and this, whole idea of this strong woman who doesn't need a man kind of mentality floating out there. But the primary role, when God created you, he created you to be a helpmeet to your husband. And I think we've drifted so far away from that, where it's very, very, we see less and less of that happening because of this independence mindset. And I wonder, is that a reason why some marriages are not experiencing satisfying marriages? Is that a reason why some marriages are failing? Because this idea of competing rather than complementing, right? Where she comes alongside and be supportive, because when her husband's dreams and goals are being, he's aspiring for and is achieving those, everyone benefits because he is a protector and a provider. So you're going to benefit in that regard. That doesn't mean that you don't follow your own aspirations, but your primary role, I believe, is for that idea. Secondly, so not only being supportive of your husband's goals and dreams makes you an extraordinary wife, I believe also showing your husband, okay, how much you love and appreciate him. Appreciate him. Your husband wants to be appreciated. When he feels appreciated, he feels as if what he does is recognized. You saw it. And I can tell you one thing, of all the people that truly matters to him about what he does is you. My love language is words of affirmation. And so my wife is affection, right? It's physical touch and affection. And for me, whenever I say, I love to do outside. Well, I would say love is a strong word, but I enjoy. Let's put it. I enjoy getting outside and doing our yard. Doing the lawn and edging and weeding and all that stuff. And my wife will come home, or she's may see it at the end of the day, and she will tell me how it looks good. And man, our house looks great. She's giving me an appreciation. And she would tell me that very, very directly. I appreciate the work you do for our family and so on, right? So that appreciation is very, very important. So when you show your husband your love and appreciation, here's how much you care. And thirdly, and the most important piece is to show respect. Respect him, respect his endeavors, respect the fact that he is doing the best he can. Don't undermine it. Don't even if you have children, don't undermine his authorities. No matter what he does, make certain that you show respect to him. That is oxygen to his soul. When you don't show a respect and appreciation, is like the kryptonite. There you go. Kryptonite to his soul. It's like a Superman who no longer has strength because that is his kryptonite, right? I might just find another word that's but I guess you get what I'm talking about, right? But that's what it crushes him when he feels disrespected and unappreciated. It just sucks the oxygen out of his life. And most times he will walk around very depressed and just act, just go through the motion. What's wrong with you? Nothing. Man, it can't be nothing. I said nothing wrong, because I can tell you, if he really was honest and wasn't trying to contain and restrain himself, right? Because many times when he's upset like that, he's restraining himself. He will avoid conversation. He'll avoid certain things, not because he want to be avoidant per se. He wants to keep himself under restraint, because your husband, as you know, right? Of course, is the stronger of both of you. And, in some cases you have, I'm talking about physically. And so many times what a wife doesn't understand, her husband is truly trying to restrain himself. He is holding himself in check, because he knows if he truly was to let everything out the way he feels on the inside, he could be dangerous. Right. So many times he's trying to avoid the best he can to stay away from certain things. But when you're respecting him and appreciating him, it's oxygen to his soul. Right. And also, the one I want to mention this piece to the fourth and the first thing I mentioned before is that be supportive of his dreams and goals. Second thing, show him how much you love him by your appreciation. And third thing is show respect to him. And the fourth thing is be yourself. Okay. Be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to compare yourself with anybody. Be yourself. As you self-care, as you believe in yourself, as you be yourself and do the things you know fits you, that also is important in being an extraordinary wife. I guarantee. And your husband will also, he admires you. He wants you to be yourself. That's what attracted him in the first place. So continue to be yourself in that regard. See, when you're able to do these things, before I tell you now, here are what the benefits of that. Let me just say this. As you're watching this video right now, I would like for you to just show your appreciation for this video by hitting that subscribe button. Hit on that subscribe button. I would really appreciate that, because this is one of those ways that people, that YouTube will show this before more people as the numbers go up. So I really would ask you, if you have not yet subscribed, to hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate that. And if you have a comment, which I want to engage, I want to hear from you, your thoughts in anything I've said so far. So make sure you comment below as you watch this video, right? Just comment below and let me hear your thoughts. Question you may have, disagree or agree. I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well. For you who are listening to the podcast and not watching the video, let me encourage you to, maybe on social media, maybe on IG or on Facebook, just send me a DM or comment when you see the post on social media. And I would really appreciate that as well. And one last thing I want to mention is this. If you want to know how, just to gauge the state of your relationship, you're unsure about, where your marriage is, I want to gauge that. I've created just that thing for you. And that is a marriage assessment quiz, right? Happier marriage assessment quiz that you can access at happiermarriagesecrets.com, happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. You can access that there. And it's in 90 seconds or less. Go through the quiz, take the questions, and you get a number that explains a number and an explanation to what the number represent in your marriage, and you'll get a next step as a result of that. So I want to encourage you to take that quiz. Okay. Now here's what happened when you're able to become extraordinary. I believe not only with your husband, the feedback from him will be incredible, but you will find that he'll be happier. He's happier when he sees you happy. I mentioned that before. Your marriage will become stronger. Your marriage will become stronger and more satisfying. That's the idea or the essence of what you're going after. You have a more satisfying marriage, a happier marriage, a marriage where you feel that this is a more enduring, marriage, a marriage that will last, because this is putting the foundational elements in the place. So when you're able to do those things, and the reason why I call upon you, dear wife, I call upon you because I believe you hold the key. You hold the key to this success. And again, please don't become like others who are the ordinary wives who are going to say, yeah, but why me? Why me? Why it's always me? Listen, get past that. Forget that piece, because that's why I find where those who get caught up in that will remain as they are. Don't be like that. Don't be like that wife who is that way. Take your marriage seriously. Recognize the strength and the wisdom and how God have wired you and the role that you play. Recognize that and act upon that, because that will be, I believe, what will give your marriage what you're looking for. So as we come to the end of this video, and those who are listening by the podcast, again, let me just summarize basically what is required for you to become this extraordinary wife that give you a satisfying marriage. As I said before, it's not what you may have thought about how to have a satisfying marriage, but this is the path I believe that would get you the marriage you're looking for. So an extraordinary wife is someone who's supportive and loving, of her husband, is someone who's not afraid to take the lead. Okay. It's someone who's always looking for ways to make her husband happy. And how to become that wife. We talk about being supportive of your husband's dreams and his goals. Show your husband how much you love him and appreciate him. And to also be respectful of your husband. Be respectful of your husband, but also be yourself. Be yourself in this process. Okay. Now, I hope this resonates and this makes sense. I would love to hear from you, like I mentioned, what your thoughts are about this this topic that I've covered today. Okay. And I really would appreciate hearing from you. And also, if you would share this with one other person, one other spouse, I would truly appreciate that as well. Okay. So subscribe to the channel, share this video. And again, I want to say thank you for taking the time to watch and to listen. Now, again, for the podcast, if you've only watched the video and never listened to my podcast, you can always access that at happiermarriagesecrets.com, happiermarriagesecrets.com. If you want to just travel and say, want to hear something that I mentioned that you don't have time to sit down and watch, then you may want to do that. If you've never seen if you're on the podcast and never seen the videos and see how it's edited and how it's put together, and you're missing out on some things, I want you to head over to Kingsley Grant on YouTube, and there you can also watch that as well. So thank you for being here. I truly appreciate that. And for those who are watching, may God bless you. And I hope to see you on the next broadcast of this channel. And with that said, continue to be extraordinary. God bless.